Well, hidey-ho, everybody. Welcome back to the Square to Circle Music channel. It's your old pal again, Aaron. That's right, Aaron Major, to be precise. You got stuck here again. You stumbled upon my music channel here where we focus on music appreciation and, specifically speaking, vinyl record collecting. Um, Quick little reminder, don't forget to head over to the old Instagrammy and, give me a heart and follow me and, do all that fun stuff. Scroll down in my history, watch some of my videos, like some of my videos, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Scroll down and visit one of my little videos that I posted about a contest that I've started. Enter my contest. Tell me about 4 records that you'd take with you to the desert island. If you were going to die on a desert island, you'd need 4 selections. That's all you get. So tell me what they are. Put that in the comment section below on said video, so I can enter your name, put your name into a little hat, and then I'll draw your name and you get to win some crap. It's fun. So yeah, anyone new, welcome to my channel. Anyone that's been here before, welcome back. So let's get right into it. This is going to be another episode of a fun little series that I like to do called Nerd Alert. That's right, where I like to focus on kind of specific niche subjects that often can be construed as, stuff that's kind of like nerdy, I guess, to a certain degree. More or less, like I said, I like to focus hard on real specific, maybe a genre or a specific type of subject, and just really kind of hammer it home and, get intimate with it and really talk deep about it. So this is going to be episode 3 of Nerd Alert, and tonight we're going to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, something that's really important to me, and something a little bit kind of more all-encompassing. We're going to talk about drumming today. I happen to be a drummer myself, a lifelong drummer, and I want to go over 10 of my very favorite rock drummers. So this is going to be a top 10 list of, like I said, the greatest rock drummers, according to this guy. These lists that I do, of course, like I said, many times before, highly subjective. Don't get your panties in a bunch if your favorite drummers aren't on this list. This is my favorite drummers. But very good about this, like I said, this Nerd Alert episode I do where I really like to focus hard on one subject. I'll be able to really give you some decent kind of like, descriptions and outline why my opinions are as such, and I can go into like detail and really kind of, focus on, elaborate on my bullshit opinions. So, all of that aside, let's stop dicking around and just get right to it. I guess, what I usually do is I like to kind of preface these types of videos with just a little bit of information. So bear with me here, folks. If any of you have never tuned into my channel before, I do a lot of this. I try not to ramble too much, but, it's kind of, imperative information here. Like I said, I kind of want to go into a little bit of history. And that way you get a good sense of, why my opinion is what it is. It's kind of a little bit of science behind the whole thing, right? So, about me. I grew up in small town Oregon. Immediately, felt a desire and a need to be involved in the musical community around what I was doing. My mother, especially, kind of like really shoved me hard into that. I was always involved as a very young child in musical theater productions with my parents, and all sorts of other things involving, community theater and school and church or what have you, whatever my parents thought to involve me in. But it got to a point where mother noticed that I had a little bit of a natural sense of rhythm. She immediately, researched around town and got me private lessons by a man who was actually the principal percussionist for the Eugene Symphony. Kind of a big fucking deal. And brought me to him and put me under his wing. I learned a lot, took lessons from him for the better part of a year at about age 8. And yeah, just took with it and just rolled with it. and loved every minute of it. Didn't do a lot of playing until I got into public school, and then I kind of like, as soon as I got into public school and the band classes and stuff like that, I really started, flying, and joined all the band classes all the way up until high school. I took like 3 band classes every year. There was, fundamentals of percussion and jazz and symphonic band and pep band and marching band and fucking all of it. I did all of it. The only thing that saved me and got me graduated through high school was, the only thing that got me out of bed and got me there every day was wanting to go to band class. It just meant that much to me. And everyone loves, being good at something. And I was pretty fucking good at it, so that gave me the courage to really kind of like keep going and just get it over with. So I had kind of the fundamentals and kind of the beginnings of it all taken care of, and I knew I had a little bit under my belt as far as like the necessary skills and what it would take to kind of like take it quite a bit further. I started playing with other musicians as far as like I was obviously really into rock music, and I just wanted to be in a band. I was in numerous kind of sort of bands in high school, but you can't really like play gigs around town when you're underage. There's not really anywhere to play save maybe the occasional talent show or whatever. There was a couple of places around town that did all ages shows, so I was mildly involved in that and played some punk rock and some hard rock and heavy metal and things like that, and got a little bit further into it, but then really took flight when I went to college. And I was in community college. There was a transfer program through my community college for the University of Oregon, U of O. And I could go play in their band and be a student at the Poor People College and do a transfer there. And I just signed up the first year, and it changed my life. Learned how to, I already knew how to do, rudimentary percussion and marching style percussion. But this was just a whole new echelon, a whole new level, and learned a whole lot after being there for, 3 full years I was there, 2 of which I was the section leader, head of the drum line, snare drummer, center snare, and kept doing that all the way up through 2001. And then in 2001, I auditioned for the Denver Blue Knights Drum and Bugle Corps, one of the more kind of bigger top 10 drum corps out of the DCI, Drum Corps International, which is a youth competitive organization. You join this drum corps and you get to practice hard, put on your show, travel around the United States on a bus. It's fucking fantastic. It's the coolest thing ever. So if anyone's never researched that, fucking research that. It's basically, it's the closest thing you can get to being a professional musician on a football field, marching style music, that you can get basically in youth. You can only do it till you're 21. You age out when you're 21 years old. I did that. It was fucking awesome. It changed my life again. And then I just started playing in rock bands and anything I could get my hands on, really. I played numerous different, pit orchestras for musicals and theaters, all sorts of stuff. And so that's just a bit of my history and background in music. I would say the predominance of my knowledge and playing style really focuses mostly on just kind of like being a drum set player, rock music specifically. But also I have a lot of knowledge and skill in the rudimentary sense of things, and the rudimentary aspects being, like I said, playing in marching band settings and at the college level and even higher at the drum corps level. So yeah, that kind of like fine-tuned precision type of drumming is really kind of my forte. But I also love the ability to be able to kind of take all that and just kind of throw it out the fucking window and just be a rock drummer or a jazz drummer. I also, I played a ton of jazz in my formative years. And I think that's really important as a musician, especially as a rhythm section player, the ability to be able to balance that fine line and go either way, teeter either way, and be able to have a conversation on both ends. You can sit down with some jazz cats and really just kind of like take their tempos and feed off of their rhythms and feed off of their jazz and shit and just really kind of like let it flow, and then you can kind of bend it and go more toward the middle and be a straightforward rock drummer, and then take it to the max and be as precise and book smart, and you know what I mean, that precision level drum corps shit where you're out there and the interpretation of the notes between the notes have to be absolutely impeccable. It's been really fun being a drummer my whole life and really getting to kind of experience all ends of that spectrum, like I've said before. So there it is. There's long-winded explanation of who I am and what I do. And it just helps as a litmus, so to speak, as kind of like a series of metrics to kind of look, and you can understand how I'm basing my opinions here as we go into this top 10 list of Major's favorite, greatest rock drummers ever. So here we go. Let's get right into it. Number 10 on the list. Not a drummer that I really know a whole lot about, but have always respected the shit out of him for what he embodies and what he stands for and who he was, and I mean how he played. It was just so iconic and so fucking incredible. I'm talking about the legendary Keith Moon. Ever since the first time I saw that guy fucking play the drums, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's where everyone gets it from. That's where you get that kind of like, the classic caricature of Animal from the Muppets. It's like, that shit was based on, it had to have been based on Keith Moon. First time I'd ever seen, that type of punk attitude, and when you see that in the late 60s and early 70s, and you're like, whoa, this shit was going on back then? Dude, just shithouse drunk, pill popped out of his fucking mind, just kicking his fucking drum set over and just like banging his head and just playing like a goddamn animal. I was like, that is the fucking coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I just immediately fell in love with it. Even though I'll be quite honest with you, I'm not a giant fan of The Who's music. There's quite a bit of it that I really love and respect, and I will still, like, if it comes on, I'll get along with it, dude. Actually, it's one of the greatest live albums ever made, and which I love to death, is the Live at Leeds album. That shit is fucking just legendary. It's so great. All the guys in that group are magnificent, but especially Keith Moon just kind of like wrote the book on, punk drumming, metal drumming, just having that attitude and having that flair and just being just killer. Technically speaking, again, not the most technical drummer, but didn't need to be. That's not what rock music was doing at that period in time. He just had that attitude and he had that style, and I love the shit out of it. So, yeah, Keith Moon had to be on my list. So, rest his soul. Such an unfortunate series of events. I can definitely understand where the poor bastard was coming from. I myself have battled with issues with addiction, especially alcohol, and all he ever wanted to do was get off the sauce, and that's eventually what killed him. Was he was taking, some sort of I don't know if it was a sedative, but it was some sort of anti-anxiety, I believe, medication to alleviate the withdrawal symptoms of alcohol. He was trying to get off the booze, and he overdid it with the pills, and it fucking killed him. So really shitty, sardonic way to go. So like I said, rest his soul, Keith Moon. You're one of the greatest. We appreciate you and love you for what you did, what you gave the world. Okay, moving along. Number 9, another one of those, kind of classic, American icon, legendary drummers. The thing I like most about this gentleman and the way he plays is just his fluidity and his just his style. He has a very It's not a unique style. It's just a very clean and precise, and it's like he's got a real kind of like a very soft edge to everything that he does, and the way he packages it, and the fucking grooves that he plays, and the fills that he interjects, and everything he does is just shaped so smoothly and rounded out so fucking nicely. He just has such a wonderful flavorful vibe to everything he does. I'm talking about Mr. Rod Morgenstien. Rod Morgenstien, he has been, I mean, he's been given the, you know, best progressive drummer in the world, you know, award from like Modern Drummer magazine, like fucking like 8 years in a row, from like the, you know, mid 80s to the mid 90s. Involved in numerous projects of all different scopes and scales. Predominantly, everyone will kind of really know him from the bulk of his career playing for the group, the Dixie Dregs. And then, do they start out as the Dixie Dregs? Or no, they started out as just the Dregs, and then changed their name to the Dixie Dregs sometime like in the mid 70s. And did that through the majority of the 70s, and then I think it was as early as maybe 1980, I want to say 1988, he joined the band Winger, and he was the drummer for the band Winger, so kind of stretching his hard rock slash metal, you know, stretching out there and kind of doing something different and new from his progressive roots in the 70s, but just always accentuated with like really cool jazz influence and Latin influence, but like I said, just always so smooth, and his shit just kind of just rolls off of the palms of his hands, and the way his drum sound was always just kind of like a really nice, moderate drum sound, nothing too harsh or weird about it. I just love everything he did. And beyond the Winger stuff, like in the early 90s, he was involved with some kind of more cringy early 90s kind of like progressive groups again. There was one group called Platypus, I think it was called, which wasn't really fantastic. They were kind of doing some kind of like psychedelic prog kind of interesting stuff, along the lines of like what Primus was kind of doing almost. Anyway, yeah, and then made way for another one that's a terrible name, but it's called the Jelly Jam, I think the group was called. Horrible name for a band. Horrible. But really fantastic, kind of like proto prog metal. So we're talking like, this is like the early 90s, and these guys were doing a progressive metal type of thing that just was kind of, it was unheard of at that point in time. So I urge any of you folks that are really into kind of, you know, into prog rock, and especially kind of the, you know, bordering on the prog metal stuff, really go check it out. I think it's called the Jelly Jam. This is a horrible name, but the music's fucking tight. Rod Morgenstien, fucking love the shit out of him. Like I said, so flavorful, so wonderful, legendary drummer. Always been one of my favorites. First time I ever heard him drum was on that great compilation album that came out in the early 90s. I bought it when I was in high school. He played on it. He played some real kind of like laid back, cool jazz tune. It was a Buddy Rich tribute album, The Burning for Buddy, two-part volume 1 and volume 2, two-part series that you could get. I urge anyone who's a drummer or just loves, you know, killer big band jazz style stuff, you know, you'll love the fuck out of that album. So go get that. That was the first time I ever heard him play the drums, and I was just immediately taken aback at his wonderful stylings. So yeah, there's that. Number 9, Mr. Rod Morgenstien. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, moving quite along here. A more notorious drummer. People know him for his indelible stamp left on the 90s world of hard rock in the 90s. Of course, that Northwest sound, the Pacific Northwest sound that was really popular in the early 90s. He really had a huge hand in popularizing that sound and what everyone loved and what was all over the radio. Because he not only was a sick fucking drummer, but also was a key songwriter in one of those stalwart bands of the 90s. I'm talking about Soundgarden's original drummer, Matt Cameron. Matt Cameron, powerhouse, really awesome, driving, hard rock, straightforward, killer fucking drummer. Started out playing for Soundgarden, wrote a bunch of their songs. Everyone knows the song Spoon Man. That was completely penned by him, every bit and piece of it. Really fucking cool song. Kept going with those guys, played with numerous side projects and super group bands and all kinds of stuff around that, you know, group of folks in the 90s and Seattle scene and all that. And then Soundgarden broke up late 90s. He got hired by Pearl Jam, so now he's Pearl Jam's drummer. What a wonderful career. What a fantastic drummer. Everything he's doing in Pearl Jam is equally as fucking impressive, and just like I said, just such a powerhouse. His driving sense, I really appreciate that about him. He's not one of those drummers that'll let anything lag, you know. One thing I learned when I was playing in drum corps and in marching band and stuff like that is the importance of, especially in hard rock, you know, is pushing the tempo, not rushing, but playing on the front end of the beat. Anyone I've had, you know, intricate conversations with people about this, they don't really get what I'm trying to say, is that a tempo needs to, well, it doesn't need to, but it mostly will stay completely static, right in place where it needs to be. And you can always be on the front end of that. If you take all those, you know, minuscule, notes that are all the in-between notes, all those quantized, you know, 30-second notes and 64th notes or whatever, you can literally take the beat won't change, but you'll be playing on the front end of the beat, and the tempo will never rush because you're staying on top of it. That way, the music doesn't bog down and you don't lose tempo. Sorry, long-winded description, I know, I get it, but that's the type of shit I'm talking about. That's what Matt Cameron does, and that's what he's really good at. And I love and appreciate everything he ever did in Soundgarden, especially now in modern day Pearl Jam drumming. He really keeps everything moving forward all the time. Tempos are always on top of it. He's on top of the beat. It's just, it's driving forward, moving, and I love it and appreciate it. Nothing ever bogs down with that guy. Yeah. And of course, he's credited with a huge bulk of the songwriting now in the last 10 years, the last, 5 or 6 albums that Pearl Jam has put out. He's credited on there. You can look. He writes at least 2 or 3 songs every album. It's fucking fantastic. He's an amazing musician. And that's a lot of what this list really, had to, it encompasses a lot of that type of stuff. That's why these guys are so fantastic, especially guys like Matt Cameron, because they're just so multifaceted and they can do it all, I love the shit out of that, and I respect the fuck out of it. So, hooray for Matt Cameron. He's number 8 on my list. Top 10 greatest rock drummers. Okay, let's move it along here, Mage. Number 7. Again, I respect and love this guy for kind of the same aspects of what I was just talking about. That constant driving, forward-moving, forward-thinking, unique, cool clarity of this guy's drumming style. I've talked about him in recent videos. Appreciate everything he did in the past, and especially into modern day. Talking about another legend, Stewart Copeland. That's right, Stewart Copeland, most notorious and famous for his work in the 80s pop rock group, The Police. But yeah, The Police were always kind of like genre benders. They were doing some really neat meanderings and cool things with like reggae rhythms. They were almost kind of like punk rock in a way. They were doing some kind of new wave, cool stuff. A lot of, their subject matter and what they were singing and playing and all that stuff was really kind of like pushing the envelope in a lot of ways, politically and ideologically and whatever. But The Police were a fucking magnificent band. And Stewart Copeland, speaking of, is a huge instrumental part of their sound and what they gave to the world. Again, like that unique flair that he has of just kind of upending the beat where everything's not so backbeat heavy. It's not, bass drum 1 and 3, snare drum 2 and 4. He's really kind of hammering a whole different approach to it. It has that reminiscence of kind of like I said, the upended beat, the kind of backwards beat of reggae music, but it wasn't so simplistic as that. He always kind of like you know, edged it with some real interesting flair and used lots of different syncopations and all those cool double stroke flourishes from his hi-hat to his cymbals, and just magnificent style. Yeah, kind of a little bit more, I guess you could say, angular than the other drummers I've talked about so far. You know, he would be a great kind of antithesis to what I was talking about with Rod Morgenstien, how Rod Morgenstien is just so soft and rounded and so fluid, and Stewart Copeland really being kind of the antithesis to that, still equally as talented and ingenuitive, but everything is so precise and angular. But it's so desirable. You know, it's not awkward and uninviting and weird, you know, like other drummers I kind of flick shit at a lot, you know, Bill Bruford and stuff like that. You know, you can be, you know, kind of avant and angular and weird and unique without sacrificing real style. You know, like Stewart Copeland had a real great style, something I really feel guys like Bruford were just really lacking in any real style. So just my opinion, everybody. Chill the fuck out. Just my opinion. Obviously you can tell Bill Bruford's not going to be on my fucking list. So yeah, anyway, I'll move along. Love Stewart Copeland. He's number 7. Number 6 on my list. This one, again, you know, whilst I was talking about Matt Cameron and everything he had to offer the world of rock and roll beyond just the rhythm section and the killer drumming, is a lot of, you know, this man and his legendary status and what he gave to the world of rock and roll, and is still giving the world of rock and roll. Number 6 on my list is the legendary Phil Collins. A lot of people be kind of, you know, maybe kind of hemming and hawing a little bit, kind of scratching their head with this one. My advice to you is just to revisit some of the old days. A lot of that stuff that he was doing 1973, 1974, 1975, and 76 in the band Genesis is fucking absolutely incredible. You know, I mean, he was one of the biggest drummers in the world in the early and mid 70s, and you know, comparable to everyone and everything that was going on back then. All of those really magnificent, just like really fast sextuplet things he was doing all the way down his kit while he's fucking singing in 1976. You know, not always, you know, doing incredibly intricate fills whilst actually singing, but he would be singing and he would do some really cool off-tempo, odd meter, all that stuff on The Wind and Wuthering, 1976, everything from Trick of the Tail, 1975. I mean, give me a break. What a powerhouse. What an ingenuitive, creative, cool guy, and just continued to just do a huge majority of the songwriting for Genesis all the way up to the late 70s and into the early 80s, Genesis falling apart, starting his own incredible solo career, managing that and doing all of the songwriting and singing and drumming and touring, and just give me a break. And he's still going. They're still fucking playing. I can't believe he's on stage sitting in a chair. He can't play drums anymore, but his son is drumming for them. And I'm not sure if they're still doing this tour, this kind of like the Last Domino Genesis tour, if Phil's still up on stage sitting and singing, but it's just great. It's great to see him just really trying to put his last couple coins in the fountain, and seeing his son up there doing the drumming, doing all the hard work for him. It's heartwarming. And just Phil Collins has always just warmed my heart in so many ways. I didn't even appreciate him as a drummer up until recently, in the last like 10 or so years, that I've really grown to adore prog rock, you know, classic prog rock. I always kind of knocked the guy. I was like, oh, he's not that great of a drummer. It's like, okay, his pop career is cool and all, but he's really not that fantastic. Horseshit. Total horseshit. Everything from the 70s that he was doing in Genesis is fucking amazing. An incredible drummer. So his legendary status and just everything he offered the world, he has to be way up there on the list. Number 6, Phil Collins. Love him. Okay. Top 5. Top 5, here we go. These are my top 5 favorite rock drummers of all time. Deservedly so. At number 5, again, with some real powerhouse, you know, really fantastic. Dude, this guy's got chops, always on top of the beat. But even still, driving and powerhouse, being on top of the beat, all those technical aspects that make you a great drummer, he still had so much unique quality and flavor in what he was doing. And it wasn't always just kind of like, you know, without any sense of dynamic and without any sense of, you know, real flavor. The guy did. He had magnificent flavor. He's still playing. But specifically what he's most well known for is the killer drummer for the 90s amazing rock group Smashing Pumpkins, talking about Mr. Jimmy Chamberlain. Ever since I heard that opening cut, dude, I was a fucking like summer between 8th grade and 9th grade, you know, and I'm just like, man, Cherub Rock, 1993, Smashing Pumpkins, Siamese Dream. Get the fuck out of town, dude. The very end of that tune, those 16th notes, I don't even know how the fuck he's playing that shit so fast. And he's not playing paradiddles and double paradiddles and paradiddle-diddles. No, he's single stroking all of that shit. I don't know fucking how he's doing that shit. Going between the cymbals all over the place, watching him play that shit fucking live. I don't know how, and how he managed to be strung out on fucking heroin throughout the whole thing too. I don't know how he did what he did. All of his drumming, all throughout Siamese. I mean, before that too, on Gish and everything, but really on Siamese Dream and Pisces Iscariot. Those 2 albums, 93 and 94, just fucking rewrote the book on hard rock drumming. So much flavor, so many cool fucking riffs and cool fills. Everything he was doing was just fucking amazing. And you can credit, you know, mastermind Billy Corgan, of course, too, for all that songwriting he was doing. And, you know, it's hard not to be an incredible fucking killer drummer in one of the fucking coolest rock bands of the 90s, you know, without, you know, Billy Corgan doing all that great work. So lucky Jimmy Chamberlain, you know, he had something really great to work with. You know, every good drummer, you know, behind every great fucking drummer is a great fucking group of songwriters and musicians. You know, you've got to have those guys. They have to have their shit dialed in. If they don't have their shit dialed in, it doesn't matter how many fucking cool licks and how much neat shit and how many cool stick twirls and flippity doos and amazing shit you can pull. You guys are still gonna suck. So it's a lot of the beef I have with a lot of those like hair metal guys from the 80s and stuff. It's like their chops are so fucking amazing and all that cool shit that they can pull off, but none of the stuff that they had behind them was any good and didn't make them or sound or look any better, you know? All of your Terry Bozio's and all of your Simon Phillipses and all that stuff, Dave Welko and all those guys. It's like, yeah, those guys are fucking incredible players, but did they really ever do anything or involve themselves with anything that was that fucking fantastic? Besides, you know, playing the Black Page with fucking Zappa or whatever else. I don't know. I'm not trying to be mean here. Those guys in their own right are all fucking-tastic drummers. So I'm just going off about my favorite here. So yeah, Jimmy Chamberlain, number 5. He's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Astounding drummer. Okay, moving along here. A little bit different of a kind of a genre and flavor, kind of a more unique quality. Moving along here, I really respect and love this guy for his ingenuity and his creative take on a lot of stuff that was popularized in the 90s. Hippie music, weird stuff, and just kind of taking rhythms and putting them into a whole new language, you know? He would credit, you know, his favorite drummers in the wild world of, again, Frank Zappa and, you know, the however many drummers Zappa had back in the 60s and 70s, whatever, 12, 15 drummers, who the fuck knows. But all of them were crazy and cool and really unique and interesting. You know, and he would credit, you know, a lot of inspirations from Mickey Hart from the Grateful Dead and this and that. But I'm talking about John Fishman. John Fishman, the namesake for the band, Fish. Though he doesn't spell his last name with a PH. It's just Fishman. But John Fishman's drumming is some of the most unique, interesting, cool fucking drumming I have ever heard. Everybody check out everything he did in primarily the early career of Fish. You know, you're gonna scratch your head and wonder what the fuck I'm talking about if you listen to anything beyond, you know, I'd say 2001's Farmhouse. Everything after the album Farmhouse by Fish, you're gonna kind of wonder like, why does this guy think this drummer's any good? But everything 2001 and prior is monumental, in my opinion. Everything I mean, Story of the Ghost, every track on Story of the Ghost is just chock full of really fun, intricate. His touch is so light, and the way he manages to get all these really fantastic beats and rhythms, like the grooves. You know, he's a groove drummer, but his grooves are not so typical as to what you think. It's not just all about the kind of the pocket, you know. He gets in that pocket, but his pocket is fucking like weird. Like really weird. I'm talking about just kind of like he's riding on the cymbal while he's doing all kinds of syncopations on like a cowbell and a hi-hat, and like hitting all these, like, you know, the E of 2 and the of 4 on like a tom and a snare hit, and just like while his bass foot is playing all kinds of like upbeats, and it's the weirdest, most intricate, fucking coolest, funnest style ever. Stylistically, the dude's up there as just one of the very best. What did I put him? Yeah, number 4. You know, if we were talking just stylistically speaking, he'd be number 1. Really cool style, like I said, and his touch. He's got such a wonderful, light touch. You know, you can't imagine him really trying to like play a Led Zeppelin tune. You know, he'd be hard pressed to do that. I'm sure he could, but I'm saying it doesn't fit his style. You know, he's not a pounder by any means. You know, everything he's doing, his intricate, light touch, just, you know, feathering all those really fast single stroke things as he's going up and down the toms, and, you know, really light feathering of all the cymbals. It's just like accentuates everything so well, especially the music that Fish has to put out there. And he really just, you know, he puts so many great colors into Fish's music. It's such an underrated band. Everyone gives that band so much shit. Everyone should really listen a little bit harder, and especially tune into John Fishman and everything he's doing in the background. Pretty monumental, pretty fucking cool. John Fishman, number 4. Okay, everybody, here we go. Top 3. Number 3 on my list. And all you people are gonna start throwing your hands up and freaking out. This should be higher. He should be higher. He should be number 1. Whatever. Not in my book. But you can't deny how incredibly legendary and sick, fucking amazing drummer he is. Number 3 on my list is Neil Peart. Neil Peart, rest his soul. We lost him quite a few years ago, but luckily he had a huge wealth of things to offer the world, and we're all better people because of it. I could sit here and just talk about all the fucking incredible licks and cool shit he did. You know, I don't know. I don't really need to. I'm sorry, a lot of you probably think he should be higher up on my list, but I don't know. Not really from my era. And so, I mean, that doesn't matter. I still have listened to Rush quite a bit throughout my whole life, and I still love and adore every single thing about his playing. Is magnificent. There's not one bad thing I could say about his playing. Rightfully, I mean, he, you know, and I'm not just being nice. This isn't Solace for the Dead, you know. This is just like, you know, you can't fuck with his playing. It's just perfect. He's a perfect player and always has been. I'm not a giant fan of Rush's music, but fuck, they're a way better band simply because of Neil Peart. So, yeah, How the fuck does he do that? Is it just pagadas? Is it just triplets? Or is there 4 strokes in there? No, my mind is not for rent. Fucking ingenious. It's just genius. Probably one of the greatest, go down in history as one of the greatest drum solos of all history. Yeah, the drum solo from Tom Sawyer. I know, that was a horrible representation of what he does. It wasn't by any means supposed to be perfect, but you get what I'm saying. If I took a few minutes out of my day, I could probably get that all probably perfect. But yeah, rest his soul. What a magnificent person, magnificent drummer. And of course, again, like all the contributions to the music that, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, not a huge Rush fan. I don't know everything about it, but I know that he had a huge hand in a lot of their middle career, right? Basically everything from like 2112 or even before that. What was right before 2112? 1975 was that Farewell to Kings, something, I don't know. He wrote a lot of the lyrics, a lot of the subject matter, a lot of just the inspirations from, you know, literature that he was absorbing and reading all throughout the mid-70s, and you know, is just, you know, a hugely inspirational figure in rock music history, as well as drumming history. So thank goodness for Neil Peart. We're all better drummers because of Neil Peart. All right, getting down to the nitty-gritty here, folks. My pick for number 2 on the greatest rock drummers in history. Mine is Carter Beauford. Carter Beauford from the Dave Matthews Band. Changed my world. So all you guys that were born in the 70s and lived through, you know, the early and mid 70s and got to come up, you know, into your early teen years and watch Neil Peart drum and were just taken to another place and time, that was me and my experience in the early 90s with Carter Beauford. His open-handed, open playing style blew my fucking mind. I'd never seen anything like it. I know there's been lots of drummers who have done it in the past, but I was never so focused on it as when I saw him. Not only did I love and appreciate the new cool style of music coming from the band, from Dave Matthews Band, but just seeing him play the drums, it just literally cracked my little 14-year-old brain wide open. I couldn't believe what I was hearing and seeing. Before Dave Matthews was hugely popular, they played here in Eugene, Oregon in 1993. They played this tiny little amphitheater, and you could like sneak across this, like the amphitheater down there in this park had a mill race running around it, and so you could like go down to this mill race and climb through the forest and trees, and you could like climb up these trees and you could see the back of the stage, like through the amphitheater, and you could watch the band play. You would only see the back of their heads and what they were doing, but I got a front row view of Carter Beauford, just like I said, right behind him, watching him just do this open hand style. Like the thing is I've researched, or I've seen videos with him, and what happened was he went to see Fame. He saw Buddy Rich when he was a kid. His father was a jazz guy and took him to see Buddy Rich. And as a child, he didn't understand that what he was seeing was the reverse of how someone plays on the stage. So he set up his drums just as he saw the reverse image of the guy playing. So he set up his drums on the left-hand side, but then everyone forced him to like play right-handed. So he was just confused from a very early age and just learned this kind of like ass backwards, weird way of like riding with his left hand on a ride cymbal, but then could switch over to the right side and also ride with his right cymbal over here. So you just have this open style, and he can run 16th note, quick fucking fast shit down his toms this way and back up with his left hand leading. So I don't know, did I lose a bunch of you? Hopefully there's mostly just drummers watching this, so you'll get what I'm saying. But anyone that can play like this is just, it automatically kind of like you know, doubles your, it triples your ability to be able to play these amazing grooves, and not just filling in between, but predominantly like what you can do with grooves, you know, being able to ride in with open hand. He'll ride with his left hand, but everything he'll do on his right hand will just be accentuating syncopations, and nothing ever stops over here. So he can keep that eighth note beat or whatever he has and just play around with everything in between, and then switch over and do it over here too. And he's just always cha 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 cha, just doing all that, you know. It's so cool. Fucking ingenious style of drumming. I learned how to kind of do some of that stuff when I, you know, just learned how to do those fast rolls down, and some of that crossover kind of, you know, cymbal work really makes you look cool, especially if you have a double bass drum, you know, and you're doing some 16th notes on the bass drum. You accentuate that with your cymbals and learn how to cross over. I mean, I learned that from playing in the drum corps. Every time you learn how to play some tenor drums, you know, you learn how to do those kind of sweeps and shit. Oh, there it went. You learn how to do like some cool sweeps and stuff. You can apply that to your drum set and really kind of like impress some of the ladies and gentlemen. It's kind of fun. But yeah, all those fun little cool, you know, those little tricks of the trade, you know, that you get from drummers like him. A lot of it you can only pull off if you're ambidextrous and you learn how to be able to play certain grooves with left hand leading. I still can't fill for shit left hand leading. Like, I've tried to flip my drums around. I'm right-handed, and so I have everything set up traditionally just right hand style. I've tried setting up my tubs reversed, and so everything would be left hand leading, all these like awkward 16th notes down. It's so horrible. That was a bad experience. I don't think I'll ever do that again. It was really humbling and weird. But every now and again, I'll try to just do simple rock grooves and stuff like that with my left hand leading on my hi-hat, and just play all my eighth notes or whatever I got going with my left. Try to do all my, you know, my snare hits with my right hand. It's fun. It's difficult. It's a great way to practice if you're trying to learn and really kind of branch out. It really fucks with your brain. So it's this great brain exercise and getting everything kind of connected, muscle memory, and betwixt and between, you know what I mean? Sorry, I'm not going to get into all these weird, strange technicality things that only drummers understand. So I'll shut up about all that now, but I love the shit out of Carter Beauford. Anyone that's not familiar with him and his playing style and what he has given to the world of rock and roll, you gotta do it. You gotta go research, get on the YouTubes, find some old videos from Dave Matthews Band from back in like 92, 93, 94. The albums Under the Table and Dreaming, the album Crash, and Before These Crowded Streets. Those three albums by Dave Matthews Band. After that, it went to, you know, kind of turned into some pretty awful, cringy shit. But those three albums, definitely worth your time. Amazing fucking drummer. Hugely inspirational for me and my playing style throughout my whole life. So there's that. That was a mouthful. Where are we now? Where do you think? We're going to do some honorary mentions. That's right. I always wait until the last little bit. We're going to go over the honorary mentions of the evening. Hopefully by now, all of you folks are kind of boo-hooing and wiping tears from your eyes. Why wouldn't he mention? Why wouldn't he mention? Yes, here he is. I'm going to mention him honorably. The illustrious, the legendary John Bonham. Of course. Of course. Thank you, John Bonham, for everything you gave us. Your playing style, your rock and roll attitude, everything about you, Bonzo man. We fucking love you. I just opted to not include him on my top 10 list because he's so much of just kind of an enigmatic figure, and everybody from all walks of life knows of him, and he's just, you know what I mean? He just had to be the honorable mention. I'll go as far as to say, I mean, yeah, I'll call myself a Led Zeppelin fan. I honestly don't have any Led Zeppelin records. I don't need any Led Zeppelin records. I've been forced to listen to Led Zeppelin my whole life, just like we all have, because it's fucking everywhere. It's on car commercials. It's in the supermarket. It's everywhere you go. I don't need any Led Zeppelin albums. I'm not that big of a fan. And I will go as far as to say I'm not the most giant fan of his drumming, but I can put myself aside for 10 seconds to admit the fact that he is incredibly instrumental, inspirational, a huge part of rock and roll history, a huge part of rock and roll drumming, and he influenced and gave so much to drummers around the world and musicians and rock and roll enthusiasts all around the world. So of course, I'm going to put him in the limelight. He deserves to be this honorable mention. Fuck yeah. Rest in peace, man. We love the shit out of you. He died the year I was born. 1980, right? Pretty sure. So, rest in peace, John Bonham. You're my honorable mention. Plus one more honorable mention. It wouldn't be fair to have at least one feminine figure on this list. Everything is so male-centric these days. But I love the shit out of this gal. I got probably one of the very few times my mother almost slapped me. She almost slapped the back of my head. I was a full-grown adult. I was fucking like 30, in my late 30s at this point in time. It was Christmas time, and we were in the kitchen, and I was helping her in the kitchen. You know, we were singing Christmas songs and washing dishes or whatever the fuck we were doing, and a Carpenter's Christmas song came on, and I immediately started to kind of like, you know, make fun of it and mock it with the way I was singing, and I was kind of starting to kind of talk shit about Karen Carpenter, and my mother was just like, Aaron, she is just the greatest. Have you ever seen her play? That she sent me a fucking video of Karen Carpenter in like 1968 or some shit, like a fucking teenager. Her hair all ironed and long and straight and beautiful, and it's all pulled back in this thing, and she's wearing a fucking mini skirt and go-go boots, and she is just chopping the shit out of this trap set. I have never fucking seen anything like that. My mind was absolutely blown into a billion smithereens. First of all, I was just like, that's Karen Carpenter. No fucking way. And she is incredibly talented. Everything she was doing, all just fucking traditional grip, classic fucking 3-piece trap set, just ripping all this shit, this fucking Buddy Rich style, dude, just like all over the place, just murdering. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, she's my honorable mention in the in the feminine category. If anybody's never seen that, dude, research that shit. Karen Carpenter can play a mean set of drums. Never knew that until I was, like I said, just a few years ago. So God bless my mother for enlightening me to that one. I'll forever respect the shit out of Karen Carpenter now. So, I mean, I should have before that, obviously. I shouldn't have been such a prick, but after seeing her drum like that, I was like, wow, that's fucking sexy. Okay, well, there's that. There's me honorable mentions for the evening. Thanks for enduring this video with me, everybody. Hope you've been having fun here on this episode of Nerd Alert. Here on the Square to Circle Music channel, we're buttoning up things tonight. We're talking about the top 10 greatest rock drummers of all time, at least in my world. My number one is motherfucking Danny Carey, the drummer for the illustrious progressive metal band Tool. Everything that fucking dude does is magic. He can be so monstrous and powerful and dominating, and at the same time, you listen to some of the studio recordings that he does, and everything is so finesse and perfect. All of the polyrhythmic beauty, everything he's doing, it's so thought out and perfectly composed down to every single interpretation of note between note between note. He is immaculate, and you can tell he just pours himself over everything he does in the studio for sure, but even live, when he just takes it to the new, you know, he lets the monster loose, so to speak. You know, Frankenstein's monster on the loose. The dude, I mean, so intimidating. He's 6'5" at least, and how he towers over that just monstrous drum set he plays. I've heard that it's like all steel shelled or some shit. I know his snare drum is cast bronze, the snare drum shell is cast bronze, and it's like 3/4 of an inch thick, and it weighs like 90 pounds or so. This is all just fucking, you know, who knows, speculation. But the theories and the rumors I've heard about him and his drum set, and how it takes like 3 hours to set that shit up every night. And so his drum tech is probably just like equally as just a killer performer and drummer, probably knows everything about it. Who knows? That guy, you know, I've heard stories about how he sets his drums up in a perfect, you know, golden ratio, so that, you know, it's sacred geometry, it's all aligned perfectly to his body. And so Da Vinci himself is fucking, you know, blessing him from above, and whatever else, the aliens are glowing on high, and everyone's happy. And yeah, there's something truly magic about his playing. I don't know what it is, but it's just fucking killer. He's just a fucking monster. I've seen them live 6 times. I've never seen a band so many times. But I mean, they've had a 30 plus year career, so that can happen. But yeah, every time watching him play, and I don't always zero, you know, right in on just what Danny's doing. Of course, I love every aspect of the band, and I watch what they're doing, but you can easily just get taken away to another realm just by, you know, getting fully enveloped in those fucking primal, crazy polyrhythmic grooves that he plays. All the work on the toms, and how powerful but still yet intricate, like I said. All of his work on the cymbals and everything in between. His bass drumming, double bass style, it's all so perfect. He doesn't overuse it. It's only used in perfect little amounts. I love the way it's not just kind of your classic, what people do, like splatter beat on the bass, where it's just kind of like an uncontrolled series of like 16th or 32nd notes, just kind of as fast as you can go, you know, that kind of thing. No, he's very like centered, and it's perfect. And all of those grooves that he's playing on the double bass pedal, it's like, it's always in a very moderate tempo. That's what's almost always, it's usually in a very moderate tempo. And that's, in my experience, far more difficult than just like getting these like super fast, like splatter 16ths out. Like a very simple, moderate kind of like, you know, that shit, that is very, very difficult, especially keep that up, do that for 3.5 minutes or whatever he's doing, you know what I mean? I kind of liken it to what he does in the song Ticks and Leeches from Lateralis, you know, all that, it's just constant. He played, you know, his 16th notes on his feet is just going for a solid 2 minutes at the end of that song, while he's just playing all those heavy double stops on his fucking tom-toms, you know. Everything about what he does just gives me a raging hard on. Yeah, he's basically the heaviest influence in my life, in my drumming life, ever since I was 13 years old. Ever since I heard Sober on the radio for the first time in 1993. I was immediately transported to a magical place where I have to learn every single thing of what he does. And honestly, I mean, to this day, you know, I basically kind of like know every Tool album front to back, every note. You know, I kind of play along in my head and on my feet and on my knees or whatever. But yeah, fucking dude changed my life. Some incredible drumming. So he's my number one. Danny Carey, number one, greatest rock drummer in history, in my opinion. So there's that, everybody. I'm glad I was able to share that with you, and thanks for sticking around and watching and having this little chit chat with me about drummers. So yeah, like I said in the beginning of the video, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, please. Scroll down and check out my contest video. Go enter into my contest to win some crap. This has been your pal Aaron Major here at the Square to Circle Music Channel, broadcasting from Springfield, Oregon. And that's about all I got for you. So peace in the Middle East, and be good to each other. And yeah, love you much.